Please hit like, share, and subscribe. Now enjoy the Practical Guitarist podcast.
Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, David.
I didn't know if you knew I was starting. I just figured if I said good evening, you'd figure it out.
You know, it's magical that people text me.
Right as the show's beginning, right?
This is my friend Hayden, and he texted me exactly when we started. He wrote, "What's up, brother?"
Let me
every Sunday he asks me the same question.
Yeah.
I think if Hayden's listening to this, I just want to say, Hayden, do you do that just so you don't have to talk to me?
I kind of wonder if he's got like a reminder in his phone, like it just pops up and it's like, "Hey, message Jim." And
message Jim. Tell him that you need to talk to him right now. And,
that way you don't have to.
And then you don't have to talk to him a week later. But
let's.
Oh God.
Why don't I start off? I'll tell the story. Right? And I know you've got a lot of points you want to talk about, and then we can kind of go back and forth on it. So, there was a guitar heist. Basically, a gentleman who's a professional musician has been collecting custom color 60s to 70s offsets. So, Mustangs, Jazzmasters, that kind of thing. He had them all in a storage locker, and the storage locker was ripped off. And how many guitars was it? It was like 200? Or something?
Yeah, somewhere in the vicinity of 200 guitars.
Yeah, it was around 200. The specifics really aren't that important in this case. But anyway, this is back in the press. Like, this happened months ago. And it's back in the press now because he did an interview with a guitar shop on their YouTube channel. And that's getting passed around because it's giving more details about what happened. And so I am going to interject a little bit of a weigh-in on this situation. So number one is if you've got guitars like this, don't put them in a damn storage locker. Like, what is wrong with you? So here's what happened to this guy. He gets a call from Guitar Center who knows him, and they tell him, "Hey, did you sell that? Whatever offset?" And he said, "No." And they said, "Well, we've got it sitting right here." And then he goes down to the storage locker and finds another lock on his locker and realizes that he's been just plundered. So he didn't even know. This could have happened a month before, because we don't know how often he goes over to the storage locker. It sounds like almost never.
He actually sent a friend. He wasn't even in town. He sent a friend.
Yeah.
So
if you're the friend, you could have just been like, "Well, there's another lock on here."
Yeah, that's what happened. The friend said, "But there's another lock on there." That's exactly what happened.
So
now the guy, go ahead.
He's doing his. I'm going to give a little background on the interview too. So he's doing the interview via Skype in his very posh house. You can tell it's nicely decorated. The guy's got money. He's got a lot of money, and as you know, probably if you've ever had any dealings in the vintage guitar community, if you've ever gone to a vintage guitar show, they all know each other. The people that collect this stuff all know one another. So this was no secret that this guy had, 200 really, really nice guitars in cases somewhere. Now, maybe they didn't know where a storage shed was at, but I bet you could figure that out pretty easily. If you ask the right people. Wouldn't even be surprised to find out that he hasn't had stuff shipped directly there.
Right.
It's just this is like a scammy story as it goes on and on, because it's like, okay, so this guy's pleading with the public to report any of his vintage guitars that went missing so that he can get them back. Why? You didn't play them. It's not like you had any real emotional attachment to these other than they were cool. So anyway, Jim, you can go off now.
Yeah. So the why is they were being put aside for his retirement. Okay. So we do realize he's got some money. He was not like out of town on assignment. He's retired, and he was in Cabo. He mentioned he was in Cabo. You don't go to Cabo on $20 and a whim. You go to Cabo because you've got some cash, unless you work directly for, which is possible, for the folks who work for what is it, Sammy Hagar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a place down there, and it's possible that this guy has a place down there. Here's the big thing. These are the things we know because he mentioned them. He got divorced. He was collecting these guitars and he was putting them away. He used to have insurance on them and he took it off. Now, I'm going to say some things afterwards that may or may not be true, but because these are my interjections of what I think happened. Okay, but anyway, so he took the insurance off.
I'm seeing what you're spinning here. I'm seeing what you're putting down, and I'm like, yeah, you get it. You get it the same way I get it.
Yeah, she got the gold mine. He got the shaft type thing. But yeah, but maybe he kept some of the gold. Anyway, so and there's some other facts. He had a lock on there that he supposedly. Now here's the thing. He was trusting a lock. He goes, well, this lock, it's supposed to be really hard to cut this lock, bolt cut it, blah, blah, blah. I used to have insurance. I dropped the insurance. I don't have a list of everything that was in there, but there are enough people that know what I bought over the years who know what I had. So I'm like, you don't even know what you had. And so I get the feeling the reason he doesn't have a list is because he didn't want to have a list.
I think you're absolutely right.
You have to tell the lawyer what the list contains and what the value of the list is. Mm-hmm. And divorces can be messy situations.
And maybe she didn't know they were sitting in a locker somewhere and she didn't even know he had them.
There is a very good look. Guys do this all the time. I mean, it's a meme. It gets done so often. The guys run out and they put all their guitar. They're like, ooh, sneak in. What's the old one? Buy all the guitars the same color so she doesn't know. You got a new one. Look, if she can count past 2, she probably knows you have a new one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
it just goes to show you how screwed up his relationship with the first wife might have been.
Yeah. So he took the insurance off probably because then he doesn't evaluate on a literal sense, not a figurative sense, evaluate the guitars so that if he can straight bald face say to a lawyer, nope, I don't have anything of value over X to, give. Because the guy obviously has money. She probably got a lot of money. She, in most divorces, whether we believe or don't believe that she deserved more, she was probably looking for more. And he was able to hide some. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, and even if now, this is the thing, even if now he came out and said, yeah, I do 200 guitars, you could say, yeah, I bought every one of them after divorce.
Because he doesn't have any proof of sale. And which means she would have to go to each of the dealers and ask, and that's just not feasible. Right. Here's the deal. So he says he starts collecting in the late 90s in the video, these particular guitars. So $400,000 worth of value here at minimum. Minimum. That's at the prices he paid originally. Right. So realistically, we're probably closer to 800 to $1 million. Yep. Because the offset prices really started kicking off in post 2000. And these are not common guitars. These are pretty rare pieces. They didn't sell tons of them. I mean, they sold, but they didn't sell tons of them. And these are the custom color versions. So
right.
It's probably like early production Fender numbers, like trying to get a 57 Strat because there's only a certain amount of them. But it's not 59 Les Paul numbers. And so that's where you can kind of put the value below 10,000 and above 4,000.
Yeah, because if you look at the numbers, number one, offsets, while being valuable, just like a lot of older guitars, they're not as valuable as some of the others. A 54 Strat's going to sell for a lot more money than, say, what was the first year of, I don't know, Jaguars well enough, but what was it, 62 or 61?
Yeah, and I've seen those for as little as $3,000 lately. So
And we don't know, but we do know that he did a lot of like the collector editions that came out over the years. He went and he tracked down all the colors so that he could put away, like if they did custom color for, say, a Wildwood color or a CME color, whatever, he got all those. So he did his due diligence. But what he didn't do his due diligence in, this is something that we have talked about on this podcast before. What the F are you thinking? Not insuring your stuff. Come on.
Yeah, so that's all right. That's where things get dicey on this story.
Yeah, this is
so he admits that he had insurance up until about 2013, and then he did a hard look at his numbers and realized that insurance is costing him a lot of money. Well, then maybe you should have sold the guitars if you couldn't afford the insurance. Like, that's the big red flag. If you buy a car where you can't afford the insurance, what does the average person do? They start thinking about whether they should have bought that car, right? They don't cancel the insurance.
Right.
I scratched my head because I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So he's sitting on $400,000 to $1 million totally uninsured in a storage locker, which sounds like it's just a climate-controlled storage locker.
Right. Climate-controlled storage that has rats, by the way.
Yeah, not Fort Knox. Okay,
because he mentioned they stole everything, including the rat trap. I'm picturing, like, in the movie the Grinch Stole, where he takes everything, including
in
the lights.
in a big bag. Yeah,
that's what I'm picturing. He didn't leave enough crumb big enough for a mouse.
I'm willing to bet, because they put their own lock on the door, they probably piecemealed it out when they took things. They came one day, they took a few guitars. They came another day because it would be less suspicious if you came in, you took them all at once.
That's right. Well, they would have needed a big old truck to move all that stuff out, where if you could piecemeal them out, 8 or 10 at a time. And look, 200 guitars. Let's say 10 at a time. Let's say 10. That's a lot, right? 10's a lot to take out and try not to get noticed. That means even if you did it every other day, 10 guitars at a time, it took you a month and a half to steal all those guitars, right? Give or take. So you're coming in, what is that, 20 days? So yeah, every other day. Yeah, month and a half to steal all those guitars. And nobody noticed. Somebody knew.
Somebody noticed. Somebody knew and just turned a blind eye or was paid off.
Right. Somebody knew. And I'm willing to bet you that they stole that stuff. I get the feeling the rat trap got missing because somebody accidentally stepped in it. Come on, that was glue. Mm-hmm. Come on. Okay, I guess we should talk about our feelings about this kind of thing. And because I have certain feelings about it. And they're my feelings, and I understand they're not other people's feelings. Because recently, I want to talk about a piece of art that sold recently. Because this is where we are as a society. Someone bought an invisible statue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, an invisible statue for $18,000. Okay. There's no such thing as an invisible statue. Okay. So
did they buy the NFT of it?
They stole the air. They literally had to have a certain truck, a certain size, and a certain container that was shipped in, and then they had to have a place to put it, and had to have this much. I kid you not, and the certain lighting so that you can't see it. Oh, come on. So in other words, somebody sold the emperor the new clothes, right? And we're in a society that's like that. Okay, so, and we're not the only ones. Come on, we're not the only society that's like that. And there's so much hubris and greed. But I want to take this a step further. Look, their guitars are metal and wood. Who gives a shit, right? Who cares? But when it comes to this, now the guy's crying for people to help him.
Yup.
When he did nothing to protect himself. Nothing. I mean, people put their
He put a good lock on the door, Jim.
People take... Exactly. People take better care of their bicycles at work. You know, when you bring your bicycle to work and you click the lock thing on it. Used to come on. They have locks that have the ability to say, "Hey, I got locked in." I have I have an alarm system for this place. There, nobody's coming in here
There's
without an
an
alarm going
attendant
on.
sitting at the place 24 hours a day who's going to look
Right.
after my $1 million worth of very
No.
specialized, very climate sensitive stuff in my
Right.
storage locker.
Right. In other words, an attendant that gets paid $12 an hour. That's that's why you can never go to Walmart and find those rare Funko Pops because the attendant knows exactly what to put aside and to sell on eBay. Okay,
Right.
so you're never going to get them. Which was the whole Black Friday, the original Black
That's
Friday.
been a problem for a decade. They do it with
Right.
video game consoles. They do it with
Yep.
Funko Pops. They do it with
Okay.
whatever is collectible or whatever sells well on
It's,
eBay gets set aside.
it started with those freaking Cabbage Patch dolls, and it hasn't stopped since. And the point is that we all right. So I, I get it, but I don't get it. You're putting away these guitars. That is not a great investment to put them away. To guess whether or not these are going to be big money in the future. I mean, it's the worst investment you could probably think of.
Guitars are a terrible investment.
Yeah.
I'm the first person to tell you, if you're buying a guitar thinking it's going to go up in value, roll the dice, because you'd have a much better chance at buying some ridiculously underpriced penny stock than you would at buying a guitar, because nobody looks at that as an investment. And I also have friends who've done the same thing with the firearms world, and it's the same kind of crapshoot. It's the same kind of crapshoot. You're never going to be able to buy a gun and have it go up in value and hold that value the same way that you would another typical investment.
The guy I bought the double cut from, he buys guns too, and that's the same thing. I mean,
Jim, invest in gold. Invest in gold. You do realize the reason you invest in gold is because it goes up every year a very small amount. It's supposed to be a hedge against inflation. That's all it is. It's not supposed to actually accumulate you any wealth.
Right, gold, silver, all your platinum, all your what do you call it, metals, your precious metals.
This is not investment advice.
Diamonds.
Don't use me as your investment advice, please.
You're better off buying currency, buying and selling currency. And I'm not talking about just digital currency. I know people that buy and sell foreign currency all day long.
Same.
And that's how they make their living. But my point is that so it's a crappy investment. It's a difficult investment. It's an expensive investment to maintain. And that's what this guy didn't do well. He didn't insure it. That if you took your money, I'm going to tell a true story. So I'm going to tell it very quickly. There was a guy who he figured out a game show, and he was able to get $65,000 on this game show. It's the one where you go stop, no whammies. I can't remember what it's called. Joker's Wild. He figured out that there was a pattern. He beat the show. He won the most money ever on the show. They found out that he tried to cheat, or that he memorized the patterns, and they said, "Hey, he cheated." The lawyer said, "No, sorry, you got to pay him. You made a pattern. Tough shit."
Yeah.
So anyway, they gave him the money. What did he do with it? He took the money. Now, what do most people do with $65,000? And this is like 1986 or 87.
Bought a house.
You buy a house. You put it in the bank. You do something with that money. He stuck it in his mattress. And
now
he bragged about it.
It's worth 65. Yeah, until somebody came in and stole it.
Somebody stole his money.
But even now, like, that's the dumbest thing you can do, to put money in your mattress, because it's literally losing value day over day.
And exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
See, he started off with house money. Now, you know what he has? He has nice car money.
Yeah. He literally got every penny was stolen when he went out to dinner one day. So the fact is that somebody stole $60,000 from the guy, and somebody's $60,000 richer, and he's out $60,000. And just like this guy, money is traceable. So are those guitars, but it's going to be hard to find. And
So
the fact of the matter is that you're never going to get that back. He might get some of it. Oh, and here's the funny thing. That must have happened so long ago. This is the other thing that it kind of slides in. You got to watch the interview very carefully. I'm a careful listener. One of those guys that watches movies and goes, "Ah, did you catch that?" Um, and he goes, they had a line on the person that originally had the stuff that stole the stuff.
multiple lines. They had multiple leads, but they thought they had narrowed it down.
And he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So the stuff is in the wind.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So,
they got some of it back.
They did.
He got 12 or 13 of the worthless ones back, basically.
Yeah. And here's what kicks me. Regardless of whether it gets some of them back, all of them back, this is what's funny. This is what's funny to me. So they go out into the wind, and what if he set himself? What if he did? What if he's inside of it? It's not unheard of. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying there's that kind of guy. I don't know him any more than I know the person that built this microphone. I'm just saying that what if he's in on it? And this is all a scheme. I don't think so because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, how would he be making? He's not making money on this.
I'm just saying. Apparently, I don't know. He was talking about something happened, and that when they got it, it was ruined, and the insurance some money got paid because he was insured on something else, and I don't know.
All right.
It's a weird, convoluted story. All I know is this: don't do that. It takes up so much space. Yeah. Why would you have that? It doesn't accumulate value fast enough to pay for the rent.
Because it's cool. That honestly, because it's cool. That's really the reason why. But here's the here's my takeaway, and here's what I think actually happened. Okay, so I think the storage people were paid off. I think somebody dropped them $500, said don't say anything to nobody, and probably threatened them too. If you do talk, we're gonna pay you a visit. And then they probably walked in and cut the lock off, walked in, got 10 guitars at a time or 8 guitars at a time or whatever. They might have even, if they paid off the front desk, they might have pulled a U-Haul into that place and just loaded up a U-Haul and drove off. Then they fenced as fast as they could to different places all across the country, probably using some sort of online method. And they may have even had couriers that helped them distribute goods. But realistically, they could cut people in at $200, $250 a person and still walk out with thousands of dollars on the back end once the deals are made. Nobody's checking these serial numbers until they come up stolen. He says he doesn't have a list, but he had serial numbers for most of them, which tells me he did have a list. He just didn't want to tell people he had a list. And so those guitars are gone. Yeah, the ones that have been fenced, he's never going to see those again. Like that's long gone. Ancient history.
No way.
He did get a couple of them back. I think he got like 12 or 13 of them back already. And therein lies a problem too. I know somebody who got a $5,000 bass stolen, custom bass, and it got stolen. They found the guy like right away, and it has been sitting. Well, I think he got it back last year. Up until he was sitting in a lockup for 2 or 3 years before it got into guys' hands.
And believe me, they're not taking good care of that bass.
No. And so it's like, it's just the whole thing. I'm like listening to this story going on, going, how the hell does he get his guitars back so fast? Or are they sitting in evidence? It wouldn't matter to the guy because it's secure storage now. Maybe this is a way to cheat a storage bill. I don't know. Maybe that's the inside job there.
God.
But like, so the insurance thing, all right, get insurance. Stop.
Yeah.
If you don't have, even if you, I was talking to Mike about this on an unrelated note the other day, Mike Mara show listener. I'm getting insurance. Okay. I put in the quote while I was talking to him, believe it or not. I put in my details and I got to find out what the next steps are. I'll find out on Monday. I put in for the quote. I sort of know because I got a quote before on what it's going to be. like ballpark figure, and it's peanuts. If this guy was paying big money because he had big money, okay, he had big money in vintage guitars, and so if he was to go get musical instrument insurance, he's gonna pay. I don't have old stuff; I have new stuff, and I can tell you what my value is, but it's probably close to what your value is, maybe slightly more. And the reality is, at the end of the day, the reality is it's going to be like $15 or $20 a month. It's peanuts. You're crazy not to do it.
$20 a month,
and it covers you outside your house. Like, people act like homeowners are going to protect you if you're at a gig. The second you say gig, homeowners are going to be like,
yeah,
because that's a business. Did you get paid for a gig?
That's right.
I mean,
where did it get stolen? Oh, I got stolen at Easy In.
And other people are like,
easy out.
I don't have very much gear, and like it's all replaceable. Do you really want to pay if you got that $2,000 American Standard Strat sitting in the corner, do you really want to pay $2,000 for it again? I mean, so, and insure that is probably $4 a month. I mean, listen, I get it when people are like, oh, it's like a maintenance agreement. I'm going to pay all this money and I'm never going to get that money back. That kind of conversation. Fine. There's no cash value to it. You're pissing money away, but you buy sets of strings every month, don't you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we could go on, but the fact is that we're looking at this stuff and it's worth a few dollars a month to protect against thievery. I pay for an alarm system that's covered by ADT. Okay, ADT. Everybody has ADT, so I'm not letting anybody in. And so ADT monitors my alarms. I have the Chesapeake City Police and County Police, and I have my own handguns. So the fact is that you should, even backing away from that last thing, I have enough to protect my guitars responsibly,
at
and
your
that's
house.
why, and my other stuff. I mean, I have computers and.
Yeah, but at your house. That's the point. It's like insurance is that
right.
stopgap.
Well,
you
no,
get hit going to a gig. You get hit in your car going to a gig. And this has happened to people I know. You're screwed.
That's right. Yep. And that's why I carry the other insurance, the one you're talking about. And I was going to say about $20 because I pay, I don't know, $17.
Yeah. And you probably actually have more money in gear than I do right now.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know what I don't know what all you're covering if you're just covering guitars and amps, but like you probably
I only cover the guitars and amps.
Yeah, then you probably I don't know because I got
you
money in amps.
Pedals.
I got money
you
in
have
amps.
nicer pedals than I do.
Well, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
I am going to cover my pedals, but like I don't know how that works because if I have to give individual serials for my pedals, I'm going to have to take everything off the board and. It'll be a whole project process.
And there's some stuff I can't read the frickin' serial number. I'd have to when
the serial number's handwritten.
That's what I was going to say. To do that, by the way, you can handwrite a serial number. If it doesn't have a serial number because you took it off with Velcro or whatever, you can handwrite a serial number in there. It's okay to do that. That's a perfectly legitimate way of tracking it. So
this leads us to the second part. So. Yep. Let's say you have insurance, and you have a guitar that is. I don't want to frame it like that. We'll go. This is by the way. This is the second topic for the show.
Right.
If this happened to you, i.e., you had guitar stolen from you, and there was going to be no way for you to be reimbursed for that, what would you replace? What would you let go? Assuming you said. Assuming you are insured. So let's say you get an insurance payout and you have to replace your stuff.
That's right. So in other words, you're at ground zero.
So
and you have the value. Yep, go ahead.
So my insurance, the company I'm looking to go with, just for point of reference, they will cover basically the replacement cost, even if it's vintage, for that year. Okay? So they will get you back to basically what you had before. Right. You're not required to buy exactly that, but that's what your payout's going to be. So, in my boat, I would probably take my money, because I suspect I would have around, well, yeah, okay, so I'd take my money, I'd buy a couple Kiesels. I would probably just order, I'd have to have something to play in the interim, so I'd probably buy something cheap, like an Ibanez, first, and it would be like an RG, something cheap, right? Like not something expensive. Probably, and I'd look for something with a bigger neck.
Right.
Just to play while I'm waiting. And then I would have Kiesel build me 2 or 3 of the guitars basically that I already had. Okay.
Right.
And it's just because, number one, I can get exactly what I want from them. And I've had good luck with them before. We've been going back and forth about that company. I know they were on I think they were on the last episode.
Yeah.
Or I was talking about them in the last episode. And quite frankly, it's just bang for the buck. And then I would just go get the same amps I had. In fact, I would probably take some of the excess money because I'd have money left over, and I would probably just get a Mesa Badlander instead of the Mark V 25, and just a Fillmore combo. I don't even need all the cabinets. I mean, the Badlander would be I'd get a cabinet with that, but do a head and cab. Merle's made his appearance this evening.
Yep. Now, how about your pedals?
Pedal wise, I would probably, so that's going to be a problem. So and an interesting one, because I will have enough money to get a King of Tone. They will pay me the replacement value for that, which is $550 or whatever it is, the going market value. Right. So I would probably get very similar pedals. I don't think I would. Delay and reverb would be, what would I get for that? You know? And I don't really know offhand. I know that I probably wouldn't buy another phaser. I would probably just get a nice Univibe. I would get another Sunface RCA. They're still making those. And I would get another King of Tone for sure. And probably the RMC Wah again. I might actually try to look for an older one. Just because the older ones had a 4 dB or a 3 dB boost on them. There's not a whole lot. I'd buy a different board. I wouldn't buy the same board I have. Yeah. And I would probably buy a different power supply. I'd buy the Pedal Power 3. 3 Plus instead of the 2 Plus.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, like, I'm relatively happy with what I have right now. The fact that I'm telling you that I'll probably just rebuy a lot of the same stuff I already have, it's pretty amazing. The Ethos, if that goes, I don't think I'd replace it. I'd probably put the money into something else because it's got sentimental attachment to me. So it's like, if that goes, why bother replace it? Right. There's a couple other pedals up there that are pretty irreplaceable. That orange one is I'm terrible with mirroring. This is a Barber Trifecta. They don't make that anymore. You can find them used every once in a while. Would probably seek out another one of those. That's the best Big Muff I've ever played. And then I got a pair of Pelletars. I got a special one-off that you can't see. It's just on a frame. That's a black edition, which he only did one time, and he did it for me. So I don't know that I would probably just hit up Leon from Pelican Noise Works and be like, hey man, I heard you got them black Pelletars. I heard you could make me one. And then tell him my story. Yeah, I need one. Not to be insensitive to people who have addiction problems, but I would probably get another one.
No, we're doing the comedy thing that was done by a comedian. We are not being insensitive.
Yeah, I don't really have anything that's irreplaceable other than that maybe like the stuff I'm sentimentally attached to and the King of Tone. Because you just can't, like, who can justify buying a $320 pedal for $650 or whatever they're going for now?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So there's a couple of things that are irreplaceable as far as sentimental value to me. So I'll talk about that stuff first. So if everything was gone, the first thing is that Big Muff that I have, it's right down here. I could not replace that. That was a gift you gave me for Christmas a couple years ago. I couldn't replace that. That is not. I'm not keeping that because it's a big muff. I'm keeping it because it was a gift and because it means something very special to me. Um, the on the same token, I would not get rid of my Pelican Noiseworks 5050. That's something you sold to me, and we made a gentleman's
I was
agreement
just gonna say,
because you
give it
sold it to
gentleman's
me.
agreement on that.
That's right. You sold it to me at a value that you paid, and if I ever decided I didn't want it, it would go to you for
I'd buy it
exactly
back at
what
the
you
same
paid.
value.
That's right. So that is not really my pedal to give or to sell or to trade off. So that is your pedal as much as it is mine. So again, I could not get rid of that pedal. Matter of fact, it's going back on my board. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I think that's important. The changes to the board that I've got coming up because I bought a Muffaletta, as you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, we can do that at the end because we can just
yeah,
put a recap segment at the end where we talk about stuff that's going on, and I have some
yeah,
things I want to announce. So
yeah. So my board, as far as my pedals go, nothing on there. Nothing on my board is irreplaceable. Nothing. I got a Tumnus and a Ratsbane and all that stuff. None of that stuff is irreplaceable. It's all. I don't even know if I would buy it all. I don't know if I would go and get a Keeley Darkside again. I have mine. I'm not going to sell it because I don't want to lose money on it, but I don't know if I'd buy another one. So, yeah, it's kind of weird holding on to it. We'll talk about that at the end. I would not buy two Les Paul Standards. Both of these I have because that's a one-off. That's a unicorn, and that is a one-off. I mean, to me, it's a one-off. That's my baby. That's my number one. So I can't get rid of those. They're my babies. That they're staying. I have no emotional attachment to the other guitars. Emotionally, so I may not buy another SG. I love my SG and I'm keeping my SG. There's no way I would get my money back out of my SG, and I'm not going to get rid of it because it's a great guitar. It's a fun guitar. The double cut, nah, I probably wouldn't buy it again. I gotta be honest with you. I you know I can take it or
hey,
leave it.
I told
Um,
you like that's just not it's not a Les Paul.
yeah,
It's like its own
I think
thing.
if yeah, I think when I go to get a telly, finally get a telly that I really like,
That might be the
I'll just
guitar
let
that gets yeah.
the DC would probably go. The 335, I don't know if I'd buy another one. I love it, but it's not my number one. But I do know this, that one's not going anywhere because it's one of those things where I look at it and I go, nah, I don't play it as much as I do the other guitars, but I got to be honest, that's one of those guitars that people who are Gibson guys like myself,
They sort of
that's
covet. Yeah.
that's one of the that's your guitar, and so that's not going anywhere. The bass, I'd probably buy the exact same bass. I love that bass. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just a bass. Um, and I'm putting a drop D tuner in it in black chrome, so that would probably just get bought straight up again. Same exact bass. So again, just like you, I don't have
Well, Jim,
I don't
so
have
you've gone
anything.
on you got on a journey on this show. Like Jim has gone through 4 or 5 complete rigs in the 3 or 4 years we've been doing this show, and
Easily.
you can go back to the through the 200 episodes and you can see the variations of what was going on there. And it's like I think you've sort of reached a level of maturity with the gear that you have right now, where yeah, some things are going to come and go. But the reality is, like, you know what you like now. You don't have to really go through these big tirades of exploring things, and you don't let people like me talk you into stuff that you don't like, and I try not to anyway.
Yeah.
So, for what it's worth.
Yeah, and as far as my amps go, I love my Marshall. I gotta be honest with you. If I had all the amps gone, I'd probably go get like a JCM and a 2x12 and be done with that. Um,
Yeah, because it would
I'm
be a
not a
step up, but it's like, it's not really that different from what you have right now, really.
no, and that's why I'm not going to run out. And again, the only amp I'm even thinking about going that I've thought about going out with is the Twin. We've talked about that before. And that's going to be when I go to get my California tweet or my California. I'm getting a Mesa, so I'm going to get a boogie. So the boogie will replace the twin, um, and that will be either Fillmore or the California.
Oh, you watched my clip, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Well, your clip. There's several Fillmore clips. Of the Fillmore, for those who don't know, is a relatively new addition to
It's
Mesa,
a
and
wild amp. It actually came out right before the California did.
yeah.
About 6 months before.
So those are two amps that are very high on my list as far as desirable. There is a Dr. Z Maz 18 available locally that's within my grasp.
The
That may
Maz is
wind up.
okay. If it's a Mark II, unless it's a Mark II, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to check into that. It's relatively new.
Then it's probably a Mark. It's probably the new one.
Yeah.
They've been doing those about 5 years now, I think.
Yeah, yeah. This one looks. I'd have to ask the guy, but I'm pretty sure that this one is like only a couple years old. So he got it, and it wasn't everything he was hoping it would be. So, yeah. But anyway, that's where I am. And like you said, I have matured into a place where buying another guitar is not. Isn't that terrible? I mean, I'll watch some of these channels, and it'll be like, oh, I've got this, and they have rows of guitars. I've talked about this before, and it's like,
gear community is obsessed with crap. They want to get, and yes, I know that our listeners, many of them are part of the gear community, but I'm here to tell you, you guys have this obsession with the next thing. Like, it's always the next thing. After I do this, then I get this. And I know because I'm one of you. I've had those moments. And I have fortunately surrounded myself with people who are willing to tell me, hey, you're being an idiot. And
that's why I call you.
Well, you know what, though? I fall into the trap, too. And I'm dealing with, like, a logical issue right now. So for our listeners, I would say it's probably 75% likely right now that I'm going to get another Kiesel before the end of the month, and so I don't want to spend another $2,000. I don't want to have another number one hanging on the wall. I don't want to go through, and there's a reason for it, because I've already got expensive guitars. I've already got basically what I need, but there are a few things that I missed on that guitar. So it's not going anywhere. I have sentimental attachment to that guitar, and I will still take it out and I will still play it. Some days I will play the other one. I might round robin it or something, because I really do like the idea of having a guitar that's lighter, like way lighter. I weighed my guitar today. It's 8.6 pounds, which is, for a Strat, is pretty damn heavy. And then I play with a 1 pound strap on it. So, it's 9.6. If you play an hour and a half or 2 hour set, it's heavy. I did an Instagram, not Instagram. I did a Twitch stream yesterday where I played for 2 hours and 20 minutes, or 2 hours and 30 minutes. After standing all day cleaning the house as well, on hardwood floors, and did a 2 hour set. And I still hurt today. I fell asleep in the chair, and I woke up. My leg hurt so bad I didn't even know if we were going to do the podcast tonight.
I had pain today. I got to be honest with you. I've worked my lighting here, and it's not doing a very good job.
You should have just left it alone. It was fine.
Nice, I know. It's not being very nice to me today.
We work really hard to actually get the lighting and stuff right.
My forehead is not working well.
I have an insanely, my camera just takes care of all of it now for me. I do have 3 lights on here, but the camera does everything. I don't have to touch anything anymore. I just turn that thing on, which is nice. But Jim is still kind of fighting lighting setup and everything. When I come down there, I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna show you some shit. Yeah. I'm gonna show you some shit. Oh, sorry.
One of the that's all right. So one of the things that you're talking about there, with the weight and stuff, my back was in excruciating pain. But it wasn't from the guitars, and that's what's weird. I have a tendency to stand weirdly, strangely,
Oh, I
when
do
I play
too.
guitar.
I do too. I put all my weight on my right foot instead of my left foot
Yeah,
because I use my left foot for my pedals to turn things on and off.
And I'm exact opposite. I do the same thing opposite. So
But
I put everything on my left foot.
if you plant your feet so that there's even weight, you won't have any of these problems. But
Right.
because I'm tap dancing during certain songs, like I can't. And
Right.
of course, you're moving around and stuff too, that's not typical. When you
Yep.
practice, you don't do that as much. But anyway, so to get back to the point, it's like I'm looking at doing something, and I'm taking a really hard, long look at like whether I even want to do it because it costs me money. It costs me money,
Right.
and I don't need to do it. I have guitars that I can just rip with. So why do I care? Because I'm still chasing a couple of things like, the stainless steel frets, which by the way, I think will cost me around $500 to have them done on the GNL. So at that point, it's like, do I want to do them on an existing guitar? Or would I rather wear them out and do it then?
Right.
And then of course the weight thing and travel is another issue for me because one of my goals now that I have travel benefits is to go to places like Nashville and play open mics occasionally and that kind of thing. So it would be nice to have another Kiesel headless laying around, one that's not a 7-string.
Yeah.
By the way, my 7-string, we weighed it today too, and it was 7.4 pounds.
So your Strat weighs, what did you say, 8.6?
8.6.
That's. I mean, my Ultra weighs right in that range, 8 point something, towards 8.5 pounds. I can be honest with you. So of all my guitars, excuse me, all my guitars, the heaviest one is the double cut, which is weird. It's really not that heavy. My two Les Pauls, one is weight relieved, one isn't, and the one that isn't is actually light, as light as the one that is, which is just strange. But I gotta be, I think the 335 actually, I don't know if I've weighed that. That might be my heaviest guitar, to be completely honest. My 335.
Well,
But it's also
compared to what else my local store carries, it's on the heavy side. Now, granted, your typical Fender Stratocaster made out of basically waterlogged wood is around. They range between 7 and 8.5 pounds. 8.5 is on the high end.
Yeah.
So they list the average weight as 8.5, but it's not 8.5. They basically say the range is between 7 to 8.5. Which means that my guitar is on the heavy side. Which, now you're playing Les Pauls, and Les Pauls can be over 9 to 12 pounds.
I know.
So
both my Les Pauls are less than 9 pounds, and that's pretty cool. We're talking like we're talking 8 pounds 9, 8 pounds 10, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
So they're not 8.5 is 8 pounds 8. So we're talking a couple of ounces off of 8.5 pounds. And my Strat is, in that ballpark.
From what I hear, you can feel the difference in ounces from guitar to guitar.
I'm sure.
And I can tell you from like picking stuff off the rack, you can tell. I just don't know what the difference is. But like you can say, well, these are very close, and then you pick two others, and you're like, holy crap, and you weigh them, and they'll probably be like 3 ounces different.
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, I was doing that in Guitar Center the other day because I was looking at a couple of guitars and I was holding them up and I was like, "That's weird." And then I picked
you
up
hold
because
them
they
in
have
and
a
then you
double.
swap them. That's
Yeah, and they had a double neck SG, the
that
Epiphone
175. The yeah.
And I had that in my hand and I had a Epiphone Les Paul in my hand. I go, and I asked somebody else. I said, "What do you think?" And they held it and they said, "They're about the same." I said, "Geez, that's amazing that they can get a double-necked SG almost the same weight."
Unless that Les Paul is a boat anchor.
I know. That's what I was thinking. Like one of those 11, 12-pound Les Pauls.
The heaviest guitar. There's two guitars that stick out in my mind. The two heaviest guitars I've ever picked up. One was the Jim Root Jazzmaster, which was at like 12 and a half pounds or something. It was ridiculous. That guitar felt like putting weights around your neck. It was just stupid. I couldn't believe that they were actually selling that at like that. That was at Chicago Music Exchange. Then the second heaviest was also at Chicago Music Exchange, and that was a CF Martin electric. And those guys were oak or something. They were some stupid like ultra heavy wood. But yeah, so I didn't want to expound on that too much. But going back to the thing, like what we keep, like we're just in a unique position right now because I think through the show and I think through some other things, we've just kind of arrived at like, well, basically this is what we need. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and pretend to be a guitar gear podcast and tell you that you always need to be upgrading. You always need to be looking for new things, and like there's always another guitar out there, and there's always plenty of fish under the sea and all that crap. Listen. Find what you like. Find what you can get away with. If you're not playing that much different stuff, you probably don't need that much different stuff. And be happy. Like, you don't have to have everything. You don't. You could end up like the guy that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast and have everything in a storage locker and get it all stolen and not even know what you had.
Well, there's more and more people, I think, so, and I know that this isn't the overarching everybody thing, but I think that a while ago, one learned to play guitar and you got really good on a guitar.
Right.
A guitar.
Right.
And you were a Tele player, you were a Strat player, you were this player, that player. And if you talk to some of the pros, whether it's David Gilmour or
a lot of people
Eric
get
Clapton,
identified with very specific instruments, yeah.
Right. And not only did they identify with a specific instrument, a lot of them started off with one instrument. That's the one they carried to every session. Look at Jimmy Page, every gig. Look at David Gilmour, who started on the Tele and went to a Strat. Clapton, he didn't go to the Strat first. He was a Gibson guy first.
Yeah, but he had a bunch of them. It wasn't just one.
Right. Hendrix played a lot of different types of guitars and was known for that. But he started with that, the guitar that he had in the beginning, which was a righty that he played upside down.
It's a Dan Electro.
Yeah. And so if you look at it all, we're in a different world, and I'm not trying to say it's a better world or a worse world. But we're in a different world in that back then, because a lot of these people that I'm mentioning started off poor. Many were dirt poor. I think Gilmour, his family had a little money, but for the most part, we're talking about people who
they're teenagers. Even if the family has money, doesn't mean they have money.
Right, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Even Gilmour was like, his parents bought him his one guitar, or, so on and so forth. But the point is, so now we're at a point where a kid, for the price of a PlayStation, you can get 2 guitars.
Yeah.
Right? A PlayStation and a couple games, 2 guitars.
Yeah, if you go on Amazon, you can get 3 or 4.
Yeah. Firefly and whatever. So as we reach this tipping point, now there's also this barrier of entry because it's been dropped so low. The other thing that has happened is we never had, and I know you didn't either, YouTube. So there wasn't anybody telling me these are the guitars you need. I mean, how many times have we heard people say, you need a Les Paul, you need a Strat, you need a Tele, you need a Les Paul, you need a Strat,
we said it on this show.
I mean, well, yeah. I mean, and the truth of the matter is, you don't need all 3 of those guitars.
No, I got Strats.
Yeah, you got Strats.
My next guitar is going to be a Strat too.
I'm pretty much a Les Paul guy. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I'm a Les Paul guy, and it's as boring as that sounds. That's what I am. And but the truth is, and I love my Strat. It's right there. the truth is that now think about this. So you can go in and you don't need to even know how to play 6 chords, and you might own a dozen guitars. How many times you've been in a community where somebody says, I I never bought a guitar, but I'm 35 years old and I'm buying this. I'm buying the Anaconda Burst slash Les Paul, and then a Black Star 10 watt
Yeah, yeah.
tiny chord.
It's like, dude, you need counseling.
But anyway, no, but
I'm gonna start
it-
selling
it-
gear counseling services, which
yeah,
is probably the worst. That like the person who needs the most counseling is going to sell counseling services. Um,
same here.
um,
Sorry, but
but we've been
yeah,
through it, you know.
well, we've all been through it,
I hope.
and what I'm trying to get at here is that when you get to this point, right, where we're moving into this tipping of direction of gear, I think there's this one hair that just keeps going to my eyeballs. Um, there's this point where new people, I don't want to use the word noob, that's more of a video game thing. Folks new to the guitar are buying all these guitars. This is the problem I have. I don't know if you probably don't have this problem. I turn around and I look at this wall. You notice there's a lot of guitars that are not hanging. My SG is not hanging. My double cut's not hanging.
Yeah, because they're in cases.
They're in cases. That's because one goes to practice rehearsal,
Right.
and one most of my open mics, and the other one goes to and it'll be one or the other, and then one goes to my lessons. So I don't. Why take them out of the case? Why break them out here? It's not like I gotta play them here, right? But here's what I'm getting at. The more options I have, the more paralyzed I become in my choice. And it's just grab a freaking Les Paul and play. That's what I do. You grab a Strat and you play. I mean, you really either go Strat or 7 string. That's really your kind of.
Yeah, I do have. I mean, I do
things,
definitely
right?
have like when I sit down to play, it just basically what I'm going to do is pretty defining, or what's hanging in this room right here. So I have a pair of guitar hangers that are over to this side of me, that are on
Yep.
the wall. But yeah, I mean, I can relate to the paralyzation of choices. It isn't about the paralyzing choices here. It's about having a lot of money wrapped up in something that isn't all that different than something else. For me, anyway.
Right. Well, ask yourself this question. Let's say you were new to the guitar. So, what's your decision? What's your decision based on when you say, you know what, I'm going to play a Telecaster for song A, or I'm going to play
Oh, I don't grab.
Les
I
Paul
don't
for song B?
grab different styles of guitars that way.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that's just because like I play what I play, and I've been playing so long that for me, like even though I do like Telecasters, I do like other guitars, I don't sit there and I don't go, man, this track really needs X or Y. I just said this track is what I'm going to play, and this is how I want it to sound. And if the other guitar choice fits that sound, that's one thing. But rarely is it like that kind of choice. It's more of like, what amps and pedals am I going to use, than what the guitar is. So
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say is, so you're new to the guitar. Put yourself all the way back, 10, 15 years for yourself or whatever it was, and go, or 20 years, go back that far and go, oh, wow, I'm picking up a guitar. I have 7 or 8 guitars. And
I've
you're
had as
new
many
to
as,
it.
as 10 at one point, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, it's day 2 or day 20
Yeah.
guitar.
Oh, yeah.
You still
That would be
haven't learned how
horrible.
to.
It'd be horrible. I mean,
It
I
would
always
be.
had a number one. There was always one that I was playing most, and then the other one sat on the stand.
Yeah.
And that's how I got through all that time period, was like focusing on playing one specific instrument and not really worrying about it as much. But yeah, if I hadn't had that, if I hadn't had that mentality, I probably would be paralyzed by choice a lot more than I was.
Yeah.
I will
And
say
I think
this.
that's,
I can
yeah, go ahead.
remember playing like 2 years in. I had two guitars. I had a Samick and an Ibanez. And
Yep.
I can remember playing like with drummer and bass player the first time and being like, no, this guitar isn't working. And grabbing the other one and being like, this one works a lot better for this. So,
Yep.
for what it's worth.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, not being a recording guy, being a guy that mostly gigs, um, I I pick a guitar based on, all right, it's gonna have to be I got to play it all night, right? And because I don't want to switch guitars a lot. So what'll happen is I used to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got to bring a Strat and I got to bring a Telly and
Yeah,
I got to bring
no,
a Les Paul. And you
can't
know
do
what
it.
wound up actually happening in the gig? You know what actually happens? You just play one.
Yeah, you don't
And
even
I
grab the other
learned,
ones.
nope. So I learned to put a Strat in a bag and another Strat in another bag. And that one Strat would sit in the bag all night long while the other Strat was my number one. For years, that's how it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for, or I'd bring a Strat and a Telly. Because I was in a lot of country bands, a lot of
Right.
pop bands like that. Uh, and when I was in rock bands, it was a Les Paul, and that was it. And I'd bring a Les Paul and strings. If I broke a string, I'd get through the song, I'd change the string out, and then get back to the next song. Um, and when I was a bass player, I threw a bass in a bag, and I went. Even though I had 4 or 5 basses, one bass would go with me. And so I think what happens is we all start to go, unless our names are Alex Lifeson.
Or yeah, or you're in a situation that demands like I need a
Yep.
7 string for this song. I need a baritone for this song. I need,
Yep.
this specific thing. I need a guitar and an altered tuning. Like you basically
Yep.
should have a separate guitar for every tuning you use. That's
Yes.
basically how it should
Yeah.
work.
Even live. Even live. And Petrucci is that way. I mean, you watch Petrucci, and here's a guy who plays a bazillion different things. Um, and he sticks to a guitar unless he's got to go to a different tuning or he's got to go to, And you know what's funny? All those guitars are pretty much the same guitar.
Yeah,
They're
they're
just
all
tuned
yeah.
differently. It's
Yeah. He has some very specific preferences too. All right, I want to
yeah.
we're at an hour, but I want to go ahead and I want to do one more topic.
Yep.
Um I want to talk about what I saw today. Um I saw a shootout. I'm not going to give details about who did it, where it was done. I'm going to talk about the shootout. I'm going to talk about some things that were said to me about realizations from the shootout. So,
Okay.
I had the privilege today. I walked in to this place where I was told this was going to happen,
Mhm.
and there was a Boss BF3 flanger.
Okay.
The Boss was it the MD 200, which is like the
Okay.
little
Yeah.
little big box multi effect from Boss, and
Yep.
then there was a Boss MD2. No, not MD2. The FL2,
Yep.
80s
Yep.
vintage from Japan.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
nice.
like
Very
the
nice. Okay.
original flanger, which are actually surprisingly inexpensive.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
on the used market for even for the Japanese
Mhm.
ones. You can get them sub 200 all day long.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like very seriously considering buying one just
Not for
because
very
they're
long.
cheap. Just because they're cheap, right? Um, and then there was a boutique pedal, which I won't. I'm not gonna get. I'm not gonna say who they were because I don't want anybody to have hurt feelings. But it was a boutique flanger that said person was going to buy boutique flanger decided to shoot out the other three. Okay,
Yep.
so here's what happened. I walked in and they were already using the MD200, and I went, that sounds like trash because it was a lot of high end. And like it did the jet plane flangery thing, but it was like, gosh, it sounds like a tin can. And then we tried the Boss the BD3, which is or the F was it FL3, the current flanger, and it was okay. Lots of jet engine sound, wasn't chorusy or anything. Very much a flanger. And then we played that back and forth against the unnamed boutique flanger, which was very chorusy. I actually preferred the sound of the boutique flanger, but there was a problem. There was a significant volume drop in this pedal.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever you'd kick it on, the volume would drop about 2 dB. And if you're running in the effects loop, that's awful. Okay?
That's a lot. Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
Now, my takeaway from this is they figured you were going to be running it into either an adjustable effects loop with like a volume control on it, or you were going to put it in front of the amp. That's my takeaway. I think they figured you would be running this into a compressed amp, and so when you click it on, it would
It's not going to make that.
It would not have as big an issue, right? So I think that was the rub on this, but I preferred the sound quality and what that thing did because it had a little bit of chorus to it, and it was like a lot more rich and dynamic. Very, very 3D sounding chorus. The other choruses were meat and potatoes choruses, and here was my like weird takeaway, right? So apparently the current purple compact box flanger from Boss is supposed to be the same as the MD200. They are in no way, they don't sound the same. I don't know whether it's the fact that it's emulated. I don't know whether it's the fact that the AD converters are different. One was very metallic sounding. The MD200 was metallic sounding. It did not sound as good and lush as the Boss one did. But here's the real kicker. So the Japanese one, you'd think legendary pedal, flip it on, sounded great. We tweaked the current purple box from Boss.
You got it right there.
We got them real close. And actually the current one sounds better, and it's digital.
That's funny.
Which is wild because the Japanese one is analog, right? But so they added more depth to the current one. The depth is, and there's some additional functions on it. But you can dial in very, very approximate tones to the Japanese equivalent, which is why the values on those are so low. People who've got them know that's got to be it. The other thing is in the stock settings, just like using the same settings between two pedals, what we found was that the Boss one has like way more mid range, or the current Boss one, because like it would have sat in the band mix way better than the old one did. But it was interesting.
I can believe that.
It was an interesting shootout. So here's the takeaway I actually wanted to talk about. So if you want to buy a vintage pedal, that's a great one to buy. It's under $200. It's Boss. It's Japanese. It's, if you need a flanger, that it'll do the job. But the person who was doing the shootout, I don't think they've determined what they're doing yet. But they looked at me and they said, "I just don't get these boutique pedals anymore. I don't get the boutique hype. I don't get, there's just so many good boxes that are available from major manufacturers that are cheaper. Why are people buying boutique pedals?" Yeah. And I just wanted to speak about that for a minute. So we're at 1 hour and 7, but I'm gonna give 5 minutes on this. I'll give you 5 minutes, Jim, and then we'll close out the episode. So I didn't answer said person. I thought about it, and I was like, well, I'm going to answer on the show. Okay. So here's my answer. The reason that people buy boutique pedals is because they want to be part of an exclusive community of people that are enjoying that last 1% difference or 2% difference that most pedals share. So I think we've all can relate to this. Everybody's played a tube screamer that's just like a regular tube screamer in the boutique world. And there's a lot of that stuff. And they're not exactly identical, but it's so close that it's like, unless you're A-Bing them, no one is ever going to know the difference. And then there's clones of clones in the boutique community. So like there's the Sparkle Drive mod, and then there's, somebody else's variation of the Sparkle Drive mod, which is basically the same pedal. There are OCDs of OCDs, and that is actually a thing. Electro Harmonics makes a clone of the OCD. I won't say what it is, but you can go look, and I'm sure you can find it. And there are a bunch of pedals on the market like that. So it's like, well, why would you want to spend your hard-earned money on a boutique company that's charging you roughly twice the amount of money for their pedal when you could go to a mass market company like Boss and get stuff with similar sound quality, if not better sound quality, than the things that the boutique people were going after? Because the boutique guys are all after the Japanese Boss. They're all after the old vintage stuff, the Maxon OD88 or Maxon designed OD808, which is a TS808. They're into that world. Like, they're clued in. A lot of those designs. I mean, look at Analog Man. He's basically made a career out of building clones of esoteric pedals that no one will build the way they used to. And that's exactly why I look at this argument and I go, it's just part of being an exclusive club. Like, somebody I know bought a pedal from a company, and I won't say who it was, and I won't say what the pedal was, but they basically told me it's a clone of another pedal. And it was not like, I don't think they were necessarily upset with that, but it was like, I probably could have gotten the other pedal. You know, and I'm like, and I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, you probably could have, and then you wouldn't have to buy it from, you know, whatever jackass you bought it from, because in this case, I know where they bought it from, and I don't like the guy, so I'll call him a jackass. He doesn't care what I think, so that's fine. In fact, I got into an altercation with him on YouTube the other day, which was kind of funny, because I caught him chilling something. My concern is that people get into this trap when they're buying these boutique pedals that this is way better than X or Y. And it's like, unless you know that for sure, you're just buying like a fancier version of what you've already got. Like, I honestly now, when I buy pedals, I look for the cheap stuff. I look for the cheap, like, hey, this is reportedly well made cheap pedal. So up there, the white pedal right here, that is a JHS 3 Series distortion. That's a rat.
Yeah.
That's a rat.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
I was just
a rat.
Say, you just got a rat, right? Yeah.
Right. No, I could have gotten the TC Electronic Magus or whatever, the new one.
Yep.
And I actually thought about waiting for it to come out. It wasn't out when I got that. But I actually thought about waiting and trying it out. But I was like, you know what? I know that's well made. It's only $99. This is a cheap rat, funny? And it's better than the one that Proco puts out.
You know what's funny? So they did a shootout. Andertons did a shootout with the rats, and the Magus was one of the top rats. To be honest with you, and they said the same thing, and I heard the same thing. They said that the difference in the rats, and we're talking to Wampler's Rat Bane, we're talking some super expensive stuff. Wampler sits in the middle. And some really inexpensive stuff. And guess what? Every one of them, the difference was so microscopic.
Well, and that's mostly true. There are some variations to that. So, like the vintage rats, the Rat 2, like the original ones with the LM308, they actually sound like shit to me. I've heard them played against things like the Walrus Iron Horse and that thing, and some other pedals. There's some shootouts. You can look them up on YouTube. There's a guy that like knows all about rats, and he's got a couple of them, and he plays, you know, these shootouts. And what you'll find out is that the original Rat sounds a little broken, whereas the more modern ones seem to be more of a better take on a distortion pedal than the original Rats were. And it probably is just component drift in the one that he has, but like that's where I think that's some of the magic, right? Is that component drift? Some people like that.
Yeah, and that's something that you can't control.
No,
okay,
no, not at all. Not at all. Well,
and so,
I mean, you could argue that part selection originally probably played a part in that. Like they weren't testing the parts; they were just taking them out of the bin and building them.
Yep.
So that may be a thing, but like the question is, so like, do you really think that Proco wanted the pedal to sound like that? Probably not. They probably would have liked it to sound like this or the Magus or, you know, but so that's, you know, you got to kind of figure it out. Every pedal is different. And that is something I want to point out. So like, even if you are chasing that 5% or that 10% difference or that 1% difference, by all means, definitely go look at your boutique options. But just remember that going from a Magus, which I think is a $60 rat, to this, which is $100 rat, to something like the Big Gear NYC, which I think is $179 or $200 rat, the woodcutter. You know,
they use that one too.
Or going to the 1984 Devices drive, which is allegedly a rat clone with some other things going on in it, is huge in price. That's $400, I think. So when you just like go back and you do that, remember, this is what you're paying for your extra step. And believe me, I looked at all of those products when I bought mine. But the point is, like, boutique doesn't necessarily mean better. It just means more expensive and made in a smaller place. And that we have this stigma that that's cool. So it's not a stigma, but it's just that's cooler, right? To know that the guy that built my, Pelotar's name is Leon, and he only did that pedal once, and he did it because he dropped his top down a flight of stairs that night, and he was mad, and like wanted to make sure I had a better day. So he made me a cool pedal and sent it to me.
That is awesome.
That's like that's like a story that goes along with it, and there's definitely something to be said about that if you're into that sort of thing. But if you're just looking for like let's say you're between gigs, and you're like, God damn it, my flanger broke, I need another one. Just go buy a Boss BF3. You don't have to buy any fancy boutique thing. Just get what you need to get through the gig and be happy with it. Yeah. Anyway, Jim.
Yeah, just buy the BF3. So
you've owned boutique stuff. Like, I mean, well, you're on the more like mainstream level of the boutique stuff, but yeah.
Right. But so I did the same thing. I bought the Tumnus based on everything that I'd seen, and a lot of shootouts with the actual thing. But but here's what I want to say. It comes down to you, the individual, you being the individual, and I am not an individual who will become obsessed with chasing tone that is based on something that only came out once in 1985 or whatever. I'm just making something up. And there's only 6 of them, and they're $900 a piece. And I better buy all 6 and there are musicians who do this. Okay, and we know them. Okay, so I think that the reason people do this goes right back to what we started this whole episode with. They have to have it. Just have to have it.
I mean, I've been guilty of it.
It's my trophy. There's my trophy.
I've been guilty of it. I first admit I got a Sunface, man. Now, Jim, when I bought my Sunface, do you remember how excited I was?
Yeah.
I got that pedal. I had looked at Sunfaces online. I had reread that page about those pedals probably 1,000 times before I bought it. For years, I lusted after that. That was the fuzz face. And I'm willing to admit, like, I'm sure some of my love for that pedal is based around the fact that I lusted after it for so long. But at the same token, I mean, it is one of the cream of the crop. I mean, people, every time somebody sees it on my board, they go, "Ooh, you got one of those." It's like, well, yeah, I mean, you can buy one, and it took me how many years before I bought several boutique fuzz faces before I bought that. It took me years to finally admit to myself, you know what, just get that one. Just stop worrying about it. Stop buying these cheaper ones, buying them used or whatever. It's really what you want. You're not going to stop until you have it anyway. And that's that thing, right? I want it. I want it real bad. And I kept going for it until I finally just said, you know what, I'm going to get it.
That's right. And a lot of, it's funny because, we've talked about this before, a lot of people have this assumption that, it's an analog man, so it's super expensive. Not really.
Not necessarily. Not in the grand scheme of other boutique pedals.
No, not in the that's what I'm saying. I just bought the Muffaletta. Let's talk about that since I
was that $179?
It's $229.
Okay.
I didn't pay that much, but $229. So there was another one next to it, $279. And I shot them out, and I was like, I like the Muffaletta better.
What was the more expensive one? EQD?
Oh, I can't remember now. It might have been. It was $279. So this was at Guitar Center. But the point is not that the muffaletta is better and it's cheaper, so you should, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that
It didn't make a difference for
they,
you.
right, right. And the bigger thing, and you and I've talked about this before, when it comes to the to the pedals, sometimes they're built better for humbuckers or built better for single coils.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily,
It
always
handles
easy.
the input impedance differently and is looking for a different load coming in. And it may load your pickups differently depending. And I mean, there's supposed to be like a universal value that everybody should use, basically to make the input of your pedal look like an amp. Like 1 meg. I think it's 1 meg or something like that. But come on, they can't do that in stuff like fuzzes, because that's part of that sound is the treble roll off that occurs based on the impedance mismatch.
Right.
So
it's high. I'm looking to see which pedal it was. It was the Jackson Audio Fuzz modulator.
that's a serious pedal. Jackson Audio is a serious company.
Very nice pedal, by the way.
And some very, very high prices for Jackson Audio products. They make some good stuff, though.
Yes, they do. The Golden Boy is another one I looked at.
Yeah, that's the one I figured like you would try that out and be like, holy crap.
Yeah, I was afraid to try that one.
Did you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you though?
No.
Oh, you looked
I
at
almost did.
Oh, you looked at the modular fuzz.
Yep.
Okay, so you know the whole deal with that, right?
No.
You buy modules to put in that thing, so it can do other fuzz sounds in the same box.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which that would explain why the impedance situation with humbuckers would be different, because it may have had a module in there that did not fit you, like a fuzz face module, which I think is when they come with stock.
I believe so.
I forgot about that pedal. I saw it a while back. So just to run down, so they're known for the Golden Boy, like that's a real popular pedal they do.
Yes, it is, and I looked at that very hard.
Well, they do the Asabi, which is the overdrive distortion for Mateus Asato as well.
Yep.
So anyway, all right. I've been David.
I've been Jim,
and tonight we've been Practical Guitarists.